Thank you. Hello, I'm Dr. David Jull Johnson from the School of Medicine at the University of California, San Francisco. Today's module is about bias, stereotyping, and prejudice. And by the end of this module, you'll be able to understand those definitions, as well as apply them to your work in the academic realm, in research, and in your community practice. In doing work like this, I always like to put out my own biases first, and I have a number of them. First of all, there are no experts. While one person can get in front of you and talk about his or her understanding of this field, many people have many understandings. And what happens here is, as you learn, you get to incorporate this knowledge and fit it with your own experience, your own background, your own understanding. Often, discussions in this area can engender a lot of emotional responses. Sometimes people feel guilty, they may feel hostile, may feel frustrated or helpless. You note in the introduction to this entire sequence, Dr. Turvalon said, we are the people who we've been waiting for, and that we have been looking at the question and the problems of health disparities for many, many years. And yet we still continue on, having to tolerate the frustration and sometimes the feeling of helplessness that encountering experiences of prejudice and discrimination can engender. We're all learning. And I think in saying that, it's a way to say be patient with yourself, be patient with your colleagues, be patient with your patients, but particularly be patient with yourself. So we're all understanding new things, all getting new information, all meeting new people, and all of us are being able to have the opportunity to reflect on our own understanding of the world and our own place in it. I believe that this work benefits us all. This is not something that's only important for persons of color. It's not work that's only important for women. It's not only work that's important for folks who are from a low socioeconomic status group. This work benefits us all and deserves all of our attentions. And there are many right ways, and I put that in quotes, because what may seem right for one person may not seem right for another. And that's one of the difficulties in this area, and for me, one of the strengths and the challenges that make it very enjoyable to have dialogues with people who have a different way of seeing what right is than what I may see. My job as a practitioner and as a teacher is to find out what is right for you and how does that affect our interaction. If a physician doesn't know what is right for a patient, then that physician's interventions will be less effective. For instance, if a physician says, your diet has too much highly saturated fat and you have to stop eating tortillas, and the patient is first-generation Mexican-American, that advice may not go over very well because it's not right for that patient. Instead, if the physician would say something like, let's see if there are ways that you cook the tortillas that can lower the fat. Or, there are some tortillas that are not made with lard. Would those be acceptable to you? That's a way to use what's right for the patient in the patient's own benefit. But the physician has to change. I believe that learning occurs at 3 different levels. Cognitive, it's what you think. The affective, what you feel. And the behavioral, what you do. And true learning has to entail all 3 areas. Now the goal today in this module is simply to raise your awareness, to focus on the affective and the cognitive. As you go on through the entire module, over the 36 weeks, you'll also be getting some skill sets taught as well. So you can take what you've learned cognitively and affectively and translate those knowledges into behaviors. Because I believe that once awareness is raised, then the assumptions that you may have held before that time can be challenged and possibly changed. After you become aware, knowledge comes from that awareness. You can't change your knowledge if you're not aware of something. So first awareness, and then you have the option of changing your knowledge. And once you've gathered awareness and knowledge, the new skills can be developed that incorporate that new knowledge and awareness. Once new skills are put in place, change occurs. Now, with time and commitment, challenges can be made to individual, institutional, and societal prejudice and discrimination. And these are the things that can lead to better health care and lower health disparities. The changes to all these levels have to be in place. While cultural competence is a journey, cultural humility is the mode of travel. So I invite you to travel on this journey in cultural competence through the vehicle of cultural humility. So let's begin. So what is a stereotype? It's a common word. I've heard it often, but what exactly does that mean? And how does it differ from a generalization? Are they the same? What about the difference between stereotype and bias? And then how does prejudice come into play in all of this? Let's take a look. A stereotype is a cognition. As we said earlier, it's the thought. And when people stereotype, they're making an assumption about people or things based on their own preconceptions. We get preconceptions from many, many sources. Some of them are from our own behavior. Many of them are from what we learn growing up and from what we learn in the media. It's interesting, if you go to other countries, the preconceptions of what an American is very interesting, because much of that information is gleaned from United States movies. Now, I don't know about you, but my life does not look like Die Hard 3. So how people get their information has a profound impact on the ideas they hold about individuals within groups. Now, it may be useful to stereotype things in order to help process large information, large groups of information. For instance, I could say stereotypically, most cars run on gasoline in the United States. So I know if somebody puts me in a car that I've never been, I can look for a gas station and not worry about whether or not it has a diesel tank in it or not. That's a stereotype. Now, depending on the particular card that